Million. Okay, so I'm going to cover a few things, guys, between now and 11 o'clock. So the first, there's going to be a little bit of repetition across what I'm going to say and what Declan has already covered, in terms of the exams and stuff like that. So the first thing is you don't need to be nervous, particularly about the collections module. This is the job that you guys are doing day in, day out. There's no surprises. And our jobs as tutors, our job as tutors is to get you through the exam and to give you enough guidance and enough kind of coaching in this session now to make sure that you're confident with the exam next week. So I will reiterate. First of all, let me ask: does everybody hear me clearly, or do I need to put on a headset and microphone? If I'm a bit stuttery, just tell me. No, I'm good.
Crystal clear, Katrina.
Crystal clear, perfect. So just stop me if that changes. I've got a headset here if I need to put them on. So, the first thing that Declan mentioned that I am going to reiterate is the reliance on notes. And I have had students in the past who, like he says, get themselves into a complete and utter knot because they think if they find the answer and they copy paste the answer in, that's going to somehow give them higher marks, or that's going to somehow get them, a better score. It's not. The whole idea of the course, and I've spoken with 90% of you, I've spoken with you individually before you signed up to this course. And I said, we're not going to hand you a textbook and ask you to memorize that textbook and then regurgitate it back to us. The idea is that this is a practical course and that you are being tested at the moment on your understanding of the course, your understanding of the concepts, and how you can put that into practice in your daily life. Okay, so bearing that in mind, I'm going to give you a few hints now in terms of how I personally would go about studying for the collections module. So the first thing that I would suggest to you is go back on all 4 of your short tests. Okay, so the short tests that you received with the 10 questions, those questions were asked throughout the course for a reason. Okay, they're pertinent information. They're the key highlights of each of the modules. So I'm just going to say it out there, put it out to you there now. If they're so important and were asked during the duration of the course, would they not come up in the exam at the end of the course? Okay, so without saying it straight out, guys, look at the short tests, okay? And like I've said this, I had a personal conversation with a student there later or earlier this week, very, very stressed, very, very panicky. I said, look, this is what I would do. You take your short tests and you go through your short tests. And then if you want to, memorize those answers. Go back and test yourself again. Go back and test yourself again. So that's the first hint I'm going to give you. Okay. I'm not in the business of failing anybody. My job is to get you through it. Okay. So that's the first thing that I would do. Go back on your short tests. Now, the second thing that we're going to do is we're going to cover some long questions today that were on mock exams. I've sent you on the solutions to the short questions for the MCQs. I'm not going to sit here and go through 50 questions. You can do that in your own time. The second hint that I'm going to give you in terms of studying for this module is between now and exam, you're going to become a really boring person. You're going to lay in bed at night and you're going to read through the modules. Okay, read, don't study, don't memorize, don't highlight, just read it like a book. Okay, from start to finish, and that'll just refresh your memory on everything that was covered within the modules from 1 until 4. So bearing in mind that collections module 1 is all around the financial literacy. If you read the collections module from start to finish and you did the short test, guys, you're going to see that collections 1, the first module, is very much a high level overview. Okay, it's a high level overview of collections. And I'm going to say, don't focus too much on module 1 for the real exam. Okay. Everybody's writing furiously, so I'm going to give you time to take notes, and bear in mind this is recorded and you can go back on what I say. So I'm trying to find a good way of making sure that I relax you all today and that you're not panicking. So don't concentrate too much on module 1, but do read through it. And short tests. Look at those short tests. Now, module 2. In module 2, we covered all around communication. So we talked about communicating verbally with people. We talked about writing a good letter, and we talked about, you know, face-to-face visits and everything around having that really pertinent conversation between you and your clients. So we'll call module 2 the communication module. There's definitely one question out of module 2. Okay. Then module 3, I'm just going to say very, very briefly, module 3 is super important. Okay. Module 3 talked about, it really focuses on the person at the other side of it. It talked about people's processing styles, their personality styles. And we know as a credit controller, like we talked about module 2 being the communications module, what makes you a good communicator? It's being able to adapt to the person that's in front of you, correct? So if we've got those communication skills down to a T, then module 3 then talks about, okay, who am I communicating on the other side? So we talked about personality styles, we talked about processing styles, so the auditory, kinesthetic, digital, all of those different types of people that you're going to be dealing with. Module 3 then talks about the other side. It also talks about negotiating. And then when payment doesn't come in, why does it not come in? Is it that they won't pay, shouldn't pay, or can't pay? So I'm just going to say, and I won't repeat it again, module 3 is super important. Prioritize that, okay? And then module 4 is very much putting all of that information into action. So you've covered what it is to be a good communicator. You've covered who it is that you're talking to on the other side. And then now let's put that into practice. How do we put all of that into play to get the best results possible out of each of our interactions? Okay, now I'm going to drill down on this a little bit further now, so don't worry. So with regards to the mock exam, there was 4 long questions on the mock exam. Again, I've just emailed you the MCQ results, or solutions. So you've got those on file now. So what I would do, like with the mock exam, is, you know, put a little bit of time into it. I would take the mock exam. I would sit there and just cordon off a couple of hours and do it without checking anything. Do the exam without looking at any notes. Don't bombard yourself. There's a lot of information in this, and a lot of you know, being efficient and being a good credit controller is being able to take in the information that you really need to be effective. So leave the information aside and just test yourself and see how you get on without anything in front of you. Okay? If you do well with that, you're away in a hack. If you don't do well, you've got the solutions right in front of you. So I would kind of practice with the mock exam. There's nothing, the one thing I would say is that you're not going to have any surprises in this. Like I said, with the short questions, they come up during the course. So if you know those pretty well, then you're going to give a pretty good attempt at your 50 short questions. Okay? So with the long questions, I'm going to take a run through the mock long questions. So the first question is, write a collections letter or a collections email to send to your customers. Explain in detail each element of the letter and how it relates to the guidelines as set out in the notes. Please specify if it's a letter or an email that you've written. Okay, so with this question, the reason that I want to go through this is that you really do need to break down each question. You remember Declan was talking there a minute ago about the guy that wrote the fantastic credit policy, but he didn't give the benefits of the credit policy. This is the key to being successful in any exam. And this will remind you of your Leaving Cert now when your teacher said, read the question twice. That's what you need to do. Read the question a few times so that it sinks in. So this question, for example, write a collections letter or a collections email. Explain in detail each element of the letter and how it relates to the guidelines as set out in the notes. So there's like 2 or 3 parts of that question. So the first part of that question is to write the letter. You're not done there. The next part of the question is to detail each element. So you need to break down the letter and talk about why that element is there, why that element is there. So we talk about a good collections letter being a breakdown of, first of all, you give the facts. So your management fees were due 2 weeks ago. Your current balance is €1,000. This needs immediate payment. Those are the facts that you are putting out to the customer. The next section then would be, please settle your account fully by bank transfer or call us with a card or whatever the case may be. and that the payment needs to reach us by a certain time. So that's your call to action. So the first part of it is you're setting out your facts. This is the fact. This is what you owe. The second part is your call to action. What do you need that customer to do? Do you need them to settle the account? You need them to pay X amount. You need them to do it by this medium. And then the last part of a good collections letter is, what's going to happen if I don't do that call to action? What are the consequences of not doing that? So we will suspend service. We will be calling our legal team. That's the three parts of your good collections letter. The reason I want to run through this today is because this is a really good example of where people slip up on answering only one part of a question. So you'll be writing that letter, break it down, and then you explain each element. Okay? And then you need to, how does it relate to the guidelines as set out in the notes? So those are your guidelines. Part 1, set out the facts. Part 2, what is the call to action? Part 3, what are the consequences if I don't do it? And that's how you answer question 1 on the mock paper. Now, question 2 on the mock paper, give examples of good and bad words and bad questions. Explain in your own words the reasons for your answers. You are encouraged to give examples of words and questions that are not included in the note. Okay, very broadly. So I know I have some second assignments to correct and send back to you guys, but I think everybody has had their results on assignment 1. Okay, assignment 1 is super important because it's a very, very good exercise to gather examples from your day-to-day working life of good conversations, bad conversations, and how you handled them. So if we drill down on a good conversation or a bad conversation, you're going to bring it down to good words, bad words, good questions, bad questions. So everything about being conversational with a client, whether it went really well or it went really wrong, that's the section that you're talking about in question 2. So I'm going to give you a hint around question 2. Question 2, first of all, you need to look at module 2. Module 2 is where you'll find all of this material around good words and bad words. So using the word but, using the word no, asking closed questions rather than open questions. That's where you'll find all the information around module 2. And the way to get a really good mark in any question that you answer in this exam is giving examples. And what I suggested to the last group, what I suggested to the last group and what they said was really, really helpful to them in the exam was, if you look at your assignment 1 and you try and answer assignment 1 again, and the biggest part of assignment 1 is giving examples. So if you have a think between now and the exam, right? If you have a think and you have 2 examples of a really good call or email, or any interaction, let's call it an interaction. 2 examples of a really good interaction with a client where you got payment and you were very successful. And then find 2 examples of where it went absolutely pear-shaped and went disastrously wrong. If you've got those examples and you can apply what you've learned to those examples and you can put your learning into action, that's where we look at an exam paper and we say, yep, they get it. Is that making sense? Am I explaining that correctly? So the collections module is not an academic module. It's very much learning skills and being able to put those skills into action. So me as a rector, when I'm correcting your assignments and when I'm correcting your exams, I want to see examples. And those examples, they can be pre-prepared, because let's be honest, we all have good calls every day. We all have bloody bad calls every day. Let's hope that the good calls are more frequent. But like, that's the job of a collector, isn't it? We have our days are up and down, and sometimes they can go really, really well, and sometimes they can really not go well. But having those examples and being able to say, Jesus, I used the word no, or I told the guy we'd cancel the service, and that was what set him off. That's an example of a bad word. What could we have done differently on that call? to garner a better result. So that is, I'm thinking off the top of my head here now, so I might not be articulating this correctly, but it is very much taking the content that you've all learned, taking that content and developing that skill where you're always going into every interaction to get the best result possible. And that's the good and bad word side of things. Good and bad questions, good and bad words. Look at that and take all of that from module 2, okay? So examples. Has anybody got any questions so far, or shall I keep going? Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so the next question on the mock paper then is explaining the importance of listening and the steps that you can take to improve this aspect in your calls. Please use examples that you have experienced or witnessed in your working life. I think listening skill is like a life skill as opposed to anything to do with credit management. And certainly after having my 2 children, it becomes even more important to be able to listen and get them to listen to me, I suppose, more importantly than anything else. So there's a whole section on listening skills, and there's also a test that some of you did. It's not a compulsory test, so some of you didn't do it, but the whole thing of active listening. So you need to be able to interact with your client on a level where they're saying one thing, but they could be meaning another. So what I would suggest to you is, in terms of preparing for any question around listening skills, is to concentrate on module 3. So module 3 is very much, I did say that was the most important module. Like, guys, realistically speaking, if you study module 3 inside and out, you have a really good chance of doing very well. Okay, so the listening skills is very much being able to, if you listen to a person on the other end, you can take a very good stab at what kind of personality type they have. And you should be able to, based on this skill set, you should be able to adapt yourself to who you're speaking to. And a really simple example of this is that sometimes you'll call a client and you just know they just don't want to talk to you. They just don't want to talk to you. They're dying to get off the phone. They just don't want to talk. But yet you get this wonderfully friendly email. Do you ever have that where, like, people just want to get off the phone? They're just not interested in talking to you verbally, but they send you wonderful email and everything is peachy. That's somebody who does not want to, that's somebody who's very much digital. They want to stay on email, and that's how you adapt to them. The next time you're going to make a collections interaction from them, you're probably going to send them an email and you're going to adapt to that personality type. So that's a really simplified version, but that's really what the concept is. It's that person there is a certain type of person. How will I adapt to that person to get what I want, which is payment? Okay, so again, examples. The second part, or the second part of question 3, is use examples that you've experienced. I've just given a really simple example there. I mean, some of the interactions that I've had, I've gotten off the phone and thought, oh my God, how rude is that person? Seriously. And then you exchange emails with them and they're a completely different individual. It's because the medium of communication suits them better. So I had to adapt myself to that. And we get that in our daily lives. I don't speak to my husband the same way as I speak to my children. Well, I do sometimes, because sometimes he can be a bigger child than children, let's be honest. But you should theoretically be speaking to your husband very differently to how you speak to your children. So it's the person in front of you. How do I adapt myself to communicate with that person? Okay. The last question on the mock paper is, what's the best way to deal with a customer who can't pay? Please use examples. You'll notice, guys, in the long questions, everything is about examples. So again, I'm going to repeat myself, and I know I'm like a broken record when I'm on these sessions, but if you've got a few examples of good calls and a few examples of bad calls, you're setting yourself up really, really well to do really well and to get your merit or your distinction in this exam. So what's the best way to deal with customer who can't pay? So if you remember, if we go back to again, module 3, guys. Geez, module 3 would nearly get you past the exam. So can't pay, won't pay, and shouldn't pay. There's a whole section on this. So we've established what kind of personality we're dealing with. Now there's still a problem with payment coming through. Why is payment not coming through? Is it that they physically can pay, that they don't have the money? Is it that they're acting the maggot with you and they just don't want to pay, so they're, that they won't pay? Or is it a case that they shouldn't pay? Have we made a mistake? Is all the documentation correct? Has the service been good? All of those different things. So there's a whole section around can't pay, won't pay, shouldn't pay, and then taking the proper steps to address that. So again, like, have at the back of your mind a few examples. There's surely some examples in your working lives where you were trying to collect payment, well, something went wrong on the customer. They really shouldn't have to pay, whether it's a stock that you're selling or whether it's a service that you're selling, where you had to go back and you had to, we'll say, deal with departments and take proper steps to rectify the situation. So really and truly, we are testing the understanding of the concepts. We're not testing to know how well can you memorize a page. Okay. So that's question 4 on the mock exam. So the big thing, again, I'm going to repeat myself, have examples, have them jotted down. You would suggest, like, you just invest in some of these little cards, and you just have a couple of cards in front of you with a few bullet points. You don't need to have a massive big folder beside you. That will stress you out to the hilt. You don't do that. Most of this is your day-to-day job. This is in your heads already, so you don't need to rely on massive folders. But certainly, like, get some of these little cards, record cards, and jot down some bullet points, particularly of the examples. And if you can answer 2 of those long questions and back up your answers with examples to fit both, you're going to do really, really, really well. Now, so before I go on to the real exam, because if I haven't given you enough information and hints already, I am going to go through, I'm not going to tell you what the questions are, but I'm going to tell you where in the modules should you focus your energy on. Because like I said, our job is to get you through the exam, it's not to fail you. I'm just going to open the floor there for any questions. If anybody wants to ask a question now, say it now or forever hold your peace. This is great. I'm getting silence, which means everybody is confident, which is good. That's a great sign. So the real exam, I can't tell you what the questions are, but I can tell you where to look. Okay, so where should I be focusing my efforts on? So apart from anything else, I'm going to repeat it yet again. Get those 4 short tests. Go and look through your short tests, 1 to 4 again. Find the ones that you got wrong, because I can tell you, all of you got the same ones wrong. So would those come up in the real exam again? More than likely. Okay. So with regards to the long questions, there is definitely a question on good words, bad words, good questions, bad questions. That is all in module 2. So I really would focus in on that. But again, guys, examples. Examples is the way to go. Okay. Another section to really focus on is if you are in an interaction with a client and struggling to get payment. So there's a reason for that. They can't pay, shouldn't pay, and won't pay. That section is very important, because it's being able to decide yourself, obviously, what is the reason. That will dictate what your behavior is from there on out, So if it's a case that they can't pay, it's a very different type of interaction to the case that they won't pay, isn't it? We have to adapt ourselves to every scenario. Okay. There is a question around communication. So communication styles. And again, it's examples. Like, I'm really bringing it down to, like, kind of baby terms now when I say, somebody likes emailing over, having a phone call. That's really simplifying it. Another example is somebody If you could have two different types of collection calls, you could have a collection call where, okay, I'm going to call um, Anne-Marie now, and Anne-Marie loves to have the chit chats. You know, she loves to talk about the weather or the fact that she's just booked her holiday. But then I could call Kathy or Hillary, and they're just not interested in that. They just want to talk about the facts. They want to talk about what they owe, end of. And there you have to be a good collector. You have to adapt to that other person and you have to adapt your communication. So everybody has their own communication styles and processing styles. So you need to know that section and give examples. So think about your own client base. We all have, you know, a range of clients that we deal with. That's all in module 3. So you'll see module 3. Module 3, module 3. And then the last hint that I will give you is Jesus, I can't give you a hint without just telling you what it is. I'll be shot. Declan still there? He's probably listening in the background. He pretends he's like he's gone and then he appears. Um, look, all I'll say is question 4 is covered in module 3 as well. Okay. Again, I'm not in the business of trying to see anyone fail. You've all done really, really well on your short tests, on your assignments. When you haven't done well on your assignments, I've gone back to you and I've said, this is where you're going wrong. You know, take another stab at it. And that seems to have worked. So that is all I have to cover, guys. I would say between module 2 and module 3, if I were a student sitting in your position now, those are the sections that I would concentrate on. But obviously that's for the long questions. For the MCQs do cover all 4 modules. But I've given you, you know, as much as I can. And I think if you take on board what I'm saying to you today, you're not going to have an issue at all. So at that point, I'm done. So you guys, if you've got any questions now, I'm happy to answer them. And I will say another thing as well, between now and the exam, I told you, he pops up. He's always listening. He's always listening. Hi, Declan. No, guys, you've all got my mobile number. So what I would say is keep the heads. This is what you're doing. Day in, day out. There's no rocket science in this. There's nothing unusual. So don't get panicked about this exam. You're going to sail through it. I've given you all the information. But if there is a moment where you kind of think, oh, jeepers, I need to talk to Katrina, send me an email, send me a WhatsApp, and I will get back in contact with you. And if there's any part of the material that you need me to run through, or you know, you just want to have a good old vent, I'm here for you. So our job is to get you through it. So that is pretty much it. So unless anybody has any other questions for me or any other comments, that's me done.
Yeah, well done, Katrina. And yeah, I'm not really checking.
Thank you,
Yes,
Katrina.
of course I'm
Thank
here.
you.
No, I know I'm only joking, but you do tend to pop up when I'm about to give away the whole exam, and then suddenly the face
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah. I know, no, but I don't want to take over either. So well done. I hope everybody found that you know, helpful and point them in the right direction. One thing that struck a thought with me, I remember a pal of mine talking about credit control and collections, and he said to me, Deck, he said, you know, credit control isn't rocket science. It's much more complicated than that. and I think he's right, because you know, rocket science follows the laws of physics, whereas collections follows no laws whatsoever, and we've no idea what's around the corner. So that is that. The only one hint that I would add to what Katrina has said, and that is just to also give you an insight in the marking of the multiple choice questions. And that is, there is no negative marking. We do not deduct marks for silly answers. So either you get it right and you get your mark, you get it wrong, you do not get a mark. So if you have 4 minutes to go and you've only 46 of the 50 questions answered, put something in. All right. A guess is better than a blank space. A blank space will get 0 marks. You have a 25% chance of getting a mark if you put something down. So if there's a few questions that you don't know, just put something in. Pick a letter and just answer them all A. And if there's five of them, you'll probably get one of them right. Is that all right? So, and maybe that one mark is the difference between a pass and a merit or whatever. So just give yourself the maximum choice. So go through them first of the ones that you know, then the ones that you think. And if you've drawn blanks, just put something in. Just pick a letter, and there's a chance you might get a mark. What's the worst thing that can happen? Are you with me? You get it wrong. If you have a blank space, you're going to get it wrong anyway. You're not going to get marks for it. So that's the only sort of added hint that might get you an extra couple of marks that might make all the difference. So that is that. So look, hopefully now you're more relaxed. You know what to expect and all that kind of stuff. And so do we. We are a couple of minutes early, which is fine. Guys, what we'll do is, because Paul will be joining us between now and 11:15, we will take a break now until 11:15. Is that okay? And obviously, if you're doing law, take a break until 12 o'clock. So we start the international at 11:15 as arranged, and we start the law at 12 as arranged. Is that okay? So go get a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, or nicotine, or whatever you need to keep yourself.
Can I ask?
Yes, please. Thanks, Priscilla.
Can I ask a question? Sorry. Do we just stay logged in and just put off the camera and mute it? Do we until we come back at 12, or do we go out?
Whatever. I'm here, and as I've been found out now, I am in the background, even if I'm not visible. So if you want to log out completely, and then just click on the link again, I'll admit you for the session. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's
So
great. Thank you.
Either way, we let you in. Is that okay? So yeah, if you want to log out and come back, that's fine. Or if you want to leave it, that's fine too. So if you want to just hit mute in case there's murder going on behind you. So listen, we'll see you either 11:15 for international or 12 o'clock for law, and we'll talk to you later. Katrina, thanks a million.
No problem.
You go and enjoy the rest of your weekend and your children and all the good stuff. And we'll talk later.
Grand. I'm going to put myself on mute and the camera off now, and I'll just let the session run. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Katrina. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good luck. Take care.
Bye.
Paul?
Hi, Declan. Oh,
There you are. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks. You can't seem to see me. Oh, there I am. There I am. You can only
There
see
you
the
are. Yeah,
background
and
there.
I'm
How
kind
are
of
you?
in the dark here as well. But sure, anyway, I'm here. So yeah, thanks a million for joining us. You're nice and early.
No problem.
So
Yep.
yeah, as you can see, everybody's muted and on a break now at this stage. So
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
so we're starting at 11:15
Mm-hmm.
as arranged.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are starting the law at 12 o'clock, isn't
Yeah,
that it?
yeah, yeah.
So there's a few who'll be just logging back in. So that's that. So oops.
Good.
Yeah, so all is well in the world, and all is okay with you as far as possible.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. Are you able to hear me okay? Do you need me to
No, loud and
is
clear.
the yeah, broadband's okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm in Kilkenny at the moment because my middle child is off to Ring tomorrow, so we're gradually making our way down towards in the direction of Dungarvan. So I'm in Kilkenny. I'm in Kilkenny today.
Very good. Yeah,
We're
well,
heading on to Waterford tomorrow, and then finally Dungarvan. Sorry, Waterford today, and then finally Dungarvan tomorrow. So
very
and then we
nice. Oh, sure,
zip back up to get the rest of them to school.
Yeah, I know. And well, I suppose this time of year now, back to school and back to normal and holidays
Yeah.
over and there's a familiarity about it. It's great, you know.
Yeah, I like it when you get a week or two in and you've kind of bedded in, you're kind of used to it again and so on, you know. So I kind of like it when you reach that stage. Are you away at the moment, or were you away, or?
I am. Oh, yeah. Well, I was away last weekend. I went
Hmm.
away from Friday to Wednesday. So
Okay.
that's that. And I'm actually in Donegal at the moment. So
All
just
right. Oh,
came up for the weekend. So
very good.
yeah, looking at the hills of Donegal. So it's just technology's great when it works, you know.
Yeah, it's good to be able to kind of move around. Well, in the old days that couldn't have been done. You know, you'd have to be back to appear in either Trinity, UCD, or NCI. You know, so
Yeah. No, it is a different
seems like
world.
a long time ago.
Yes, it does, and yeah, it's a different time altogether. Yeah, and uh, I suppose that's one good thing about COVID.
Mm.
We learned how to communicate remotely, and I don't think we'll ever go back. I
Yeah,
think
no,
that's
it's very it's awful handy, and I've done kind of. What was it this time last year? I was doing one from Ross. It was Kelly's Hotel in Rosslare. They gave me kind of a storeroom, which I kind of spare tables. So it looked like I was doing it from an office, but you can spare tables all just
yeah,
out of the camera, just
yeah,
out of sight on the camera. So it's
yeah.
handy, all right, yeah.
So that's grand. So look, if you want to, now that we know the technology is working,
Mm,
as I say, there's still 9 minutes to go to kick off,
hmm.
so we'll we just hang tight until then anyway, and you have all your
Okay,
words of
great.
wisdom prepared anyway to point them in the right direction.
Yes. Looking forward to that. Hopefully they find them useful.
Well, that's the whole point
Mm,
about it, and just
mm,
to, as I said earlier, just to eliminate surprises. That's really what it's all about. Just to,
yeah.
that people, I think when people know what to expect and what to do and how to do it, it
Yeah.
just makes it so much easier. Okay, listen,
Yep.
I'll take a break for a couple of minutes, and
Okay,
I'll see you back at 11:30.
I'll be there. I won't be going too far. Okay.
Yeah, you're great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we still have a couple of minutes, Paul. So,
Okay.
as I said earlier, it's these kind of, just the last couple of minutes. I find that it is the most difficult. That you don't know what to
Yeah.
say. What I'm going to do now,
Just getting started.
just for the hell of it, if I can. Where's participants? There you go. Paul, just as I say, what I'm going to do is I am going to make you a co-host.
Okay.
So I think you should accept co-host.
Mm.
Just to say, just in case, if with internet being internet,
Yeah.
if you're co-host, at least the session will go on if I drop out.
If one of us goes, yep.
Yeah, so let's hope for the best.
Mhm.
So here's everybody back. You see, don't you just love punctuality? It's
Mhm.
great. Yeah. Although I find on a personal level the problem with being punctual is there's seldom many people around to appreciate it.
Kind of
At least-
expects it.
yeah, absolutely. So I think we have everybody now. We'll just give them the one last minute. And what I will do, I'll stop. No, do you know what I've done? I've